My Life in Ethiopia is Progress, Volume 2, Chapter 4, about the atrocities inflicted on our people, Ethiopians, our message to churches, the support given to us by natives of Africa living in America, our appeal to the Geneva Assembly. Over here, this is Haile Sellassie's, His Imperial Majesty's letter to the World Council of Churches. The whole world knows the bad luck that befell Ethiopia while she was a member of the League of Nations, in which I had placed full confidence. I asked time and again that the League's obligation and agreements be honored, but until now no aid has been given to my people. Yet I will not lose hope about the return of my country's independence, because I believe that in the end, God's judgment will eventually visit the weak and the mighty alike, according to what each deserves. Until such a time, I will toil patiently for the benefit of my people. I trust that the members of the World Council of Churches have the ability to pressure the aggressor and ease the problems that have confronted my people, who are now working to stop the atrocities being inflicted on them through acts of war. To that effect, I submit this appeal to the World Council of Churches. The world has already been saddened by the news of the massacre of many thousands of the people of Addis Ababa in retaliation for the bomb thrown at General Graziani in February 1937. Such an atrocity and bloodletting, which should not have taken place during this epoch, was a deliberate and premeditated act. All entrances to the city were closed, and all those who attempted to escape were annihilated. ... This brutal crime is the worst of the various atrocious acts for which Italian authorities are responsible. Besides the massacre mentioned above, I believe that the Italian government is responsible for the following barbaric acts. First, although Italian soldiers have killed many thousands of men, women, and children at different times and places, they have gone unpunished for it. Secondly, people of different towns and villages have been arrested and beaten to death on the pretext that Ethiopian soldiers were nearby. The most vicious of such acts is the recent execution of 600 peasants in Nakamte. Thirdly, at various times, several thousands of people were summarily killed for allegedly possessing arms and assisting banditry. Fourth, the torture of prisoners and burning at the stake those who defied Italian authority. Fifth, the beating of Ras Desta and other military officers after capture. Sixth, the transfer of unmarried women and those women whose husbands have disappeared to concentration camps as prostitutes. So they prostituting, Ethiopian women. Besides what has been listed above, there have been committed a number of sacrilegious acts against the religion and the spiritual practices of my people and of the Ethiopian Church. These are stated below. First, priests and mullahs were among the Ethiopians who were surrounded and murdered after the attempted assassination of General Graziani. Second, relatives were denied the bodies of those killed during the February massacre and could not perform Christian funeral rites. Rather, the Italians stacked the bodies and burned them like waste. Third, the deliberate arson of the St. George Church in Addis Ababa and other churches. Fourth, the public execution of Bishop Peter in Addis Ababa last July because of his refusal to submit to the Italians and to excommunicate those Ethiopians who refused to surrender. Fifth, the transport to Rome of an ancient and historic obelisk which a previous emperor erected 1,600 years ago. All these and other atrocious acts, too numerous to list here, have been committed at will by a government which, in the name of civilization, defeated my country with the use of a poison gas. After having gallantly resisted the enemy, my people grew weary and were vanquished. They became objects of the enemy's vengeance and of the satisfaction of its whim. The majority of the military officers died, as happened several times. Many others were beaten to death after being captured. These actions were done in violation of the rights of prisoners of war. I beseech the leaders and members of the World Council of Churches to denounce the iniquities perpetrated on my people. I also solicit your prayers for the ending of the despicable atrocities being committed on the orders and silent consent of the Italian government. The horrifying crimes done against our people by the fascist Italians, beyond surprising the world, motivated many of our friends to join us in our struggle. As it turns out, a genuine friend is tested in times of crisis, and the heavy challenge we encountered has enabled us to distinguish between a friend and foe. We cannot afford passing without mentioning the substantial support and political agitation which millions of Americans, particularly African Americans, have made. There was a big organization named Union of African Natives Association founded to help Ethiopia. The organization established a newspaper called The Voice of Ethiopia and granted us substantial support. The following instances explain the types of support this organization had given us. To His Majesty Haile Sellassie, Fairfield, Bath, England. We, African Americans, express to Your Majesty our sympathy at the recent audacious massacre of the loyal people of Ethiopia, and pray Your Majesty's well-being and Ethiopia's victory. To be continued.